Heart disease is the #1 killer in the United States and most first world countries. As a matter of fact, somebody dies from heart disease every 33 seconds here in the United States, which is over 695,000 deaths per year. A lot of doctors and nutritionists will make the case that eggs are not good for you. Eggs are going to raise your cholesterol. It's going to contribute to this problem of heart disease. Well, I have some really shocking news for you that nobody's talking about, and we're gonna dive deep into the research of whether or not eggs will contribute to heart disease or not. Be prepared to have your minds blown with today's video. The most important thing to understand is how your body works at the cell level. All disease begins at the cell level, and if we could understand how the cell works, then we could tie in whether or not eggs are hurting your cells, creating heart disease, or helping you. So I'm gonna do a magic trick here for you, and I'm gonna draw the cell and show you exactly how this works. Here we go. There we go. I got the whiteboard behind me, the digital whiteboard. Here's something I want you to understand. There's about 30 to 70 trillion cells inside of your body. I drew one of them. Outside of the cell, you have a protective layer called the cell membrane. Now this goes for the cells in your arteries, this goes for the cells in your heart, your brain. We have different cells, and all cells have this cell membrane. And the cell membrane is very important because we have different things that are inside the cell, like your DNA, your genes that you cannot change. Those are the genes you were born with, but you have so much control over the expression of those genes. So just because cancer or heart disease or diabetes runs in your family, or even obesity, doesn't mean that is your future or your fate. You have a lot of control, more than what you have been led to believe, but that is besides the point. Inside of your cells, of course, you have the mitochondria that produces energy, ATP, and then we have these receptor sites on every cell. There's about 30,000 of these receptor sites on a single cell. It's crazy. Think of the receptor sites as cell phone communication towers. The job of a cell phone communication tower is to receive a signal and perform a job. Your body and your cells are doing something very similar. You have hormones that are communicating to your cells. Of course, you have oxygen, and then you have nutrients, and those nutrients could come from the foods you eat or the supplements you take, and there's other things, but these are chemical messengers. These are signals to your cells. When these receptor sites hear the message, then it tells the cell to produce a job, and that could be burning fat, lowering inflammation, increasing cellular energy, protecting your DNA so you slow aging, extend your lifespan, extend your health span, feel good, look good. How your body functions and this incredible orchestra of your body is dependent on this right here, the cell membrane. And I don't know if you know of Dr. Bruce Lipton. I've interviewed him on my Metabolic Freedom podcast before. He has a great book called The Biology of Belief, which he's a world-renowned cell biologist. And he makes the case that your intelligence, your inner physician within your body is not your DNA nucleus, because they could remove the DNA nucleus and the cell will go on to function for months without any issues. But once you remove that cell membrane, instant death. You see, the cell membrane is the most important thing about your body, the most important thing to prevent diseases, including heart disease, the most important thing to burn fat. He calls it the cell membrane. That's how important it is. So the cell membrane, when it's healthy, it allows good things in, hormones, oxygen, nutrients, and bad things out, meaning free radicals, oxidative stress. When your cells produce energy, it creates free radicals. This is called reactive oxygen species. Not a problem with a healthy cell membrane. Bad things exit, good things enter. I know I'm making a mess here. Now that we have established how important the cell membrane is, the most important next question to ask is, okay, what is that lipid bilayer made of? Well, lipid means fat. So the cell membrane is made up of protein. All right, that's in eggs. Saturated fat. Oh, that's also in eggs. And cholesterol. Okay, that's also in eggs. Those are bad words to your cardiologist, but the truth is this, nobody's talking about this. You're made up of healthy fats and proteins and cholesterol. Your membrane, when you eat high quality eggs, it gives your body the building blocks to create healthy cells. brain cells, heart cells, muscle cells. You're giving it the building blocks of what it needs. Allow me to dive deeper here for you. If cholesterol is so bad for you, why is your body made of it? Here's the shocking truth, and I'll show you a study in a second. More people die from heart disease with normal to low cholesterol than high cholesterol. Check out this study from the University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA. In 2009, this study came out. A new national study has shown that nearly 75% of patients hospitalized for a heart attack had cholesterol levels that would indicate they were not at high risk for a cardiovascular event. Well, that might come as a shocker. More people are dying from heart disease with normal to low cholesterol. Interesting. As a matter of fact, to make this point even further, having a total cholesterol under 200 is going to lead to some problems. I have interviewed a leading researcher on nitric oxide, world-renowned researcher, Dr. Nathan Bryan, on my Metabolic Freedom podcast, and I'm gonna share with you a 60-second clip of him making the case that it is very unhealthy and dangerous for you to have a total cholesterol of 200 or less. Check out this clip.
That you're more concerned if somebody has a total cholesterol of less than 200 versus somebody who has a higher cholesterol. Explain that and what it does to block nitric oxide.
Our body makes cholesterol, and so our body doesn't make mistakes. If our body needs cholesterol, our body's going to make it upon demand. So we get cholesterol from the diet. We also get it through endogenous production. Cholesterol is also the backbone for things like testosterone, estrogen, vitamin D. So if our cholesterol gets too low, we can't make hormones or vitamin D. We have a global epidemic of testosterone deficiency in men and hormone imbalances in women and vitamin D deficiency. Our body heals itself, right? Our body senses what's going on, then self-corrects. But if we have a drug that inhibits endogenous cholesterol production, which is what a statin does, then our body can't respond. So if it senses that we're not getting enough cholesterol or that we need to make it, then the body can't. And the consequences of that are obviously obvious now.
The consequences are obvious now. Cholesterol is not the boogeyman, and the reason your cardiologist, your doctor, your nutritionist thinks that eggs are gonna raise cholesterol, it's gonna lead to heart disease, here's the reason why. Because when they perform autopsies on heart attack victims, what they see is a high concentration of cholesterol built up in the arteries. So back in the 1950s, they came to the conclusion that it was the cholesterol that caused the heart attack, the stroke, because they see a buildup on autopsy victims. But that is like saying every time there's a fire in my neighborhood, I notice that there are firefighters there. So the firefighters must be the cause of the fires because they're always at the scene of the crime. That sounds like an absurd statement, blaming firefighters for the fire because they're always there when there's a fire. What are the firefighters doing? Why are they there? Well, they're there to put out the fire, the inflammation. Okay, cholesterol is there to put out the fire inside of your body, the inflammation. Cholesterol is a band-aid for all of that. And if you are avoiding eggs, not eating high quality cholesterol and saturated fats, intentionally lowering your cholesterol levels, that's a problem. That's a big problem. But a lie told often enough becomes the truth. We saw this the last few years, didn't we? And here's the truth, the shocking truth. There are 15.4 billion reasons why your doctor, Big Pharma, Big Gov, and Big Food do not want you to watch this video and know the truth. Because you can see here on the screen, last year, the statin industry earned $15.4 billion. A lot of money to be made by tricking you into thinking cholesterol and eggs are bad for you. And what's also interesting is that we have been brainwashed by Big Pharma and Big Food. 75%, you can see the study here on the screen, 75% of all the ads on your television here in the United States is funded by Big Pharma. Statin medications, depression, bipolar medication, Viagra, sleep medication, and then an additional 11 to 17% is from fast food restaurants. And out of the 195 countries in the world, only 2 countries allow for Big Pharma to market directly to the consumer, here in the United States and in New Zealand. That's why I love the quote from Alvin Toffler when he said, "The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn." A lot of what you've been taught about cholesterol and eggs being the boogeyman, we need to unlearn and relearn. And one of the things I learned with my research, especially interviewing a world-renowned heart surgeon, Dr. Philip Bavadia, is that there is only one cause of heart disease, and that is damage to the blood vessels. Check out Dr. Azadi explaining what I mean.
The most common form is what we call atherosclerotic heart disease, the buildup of plaque within the arteries of the heart that can ultimately lead to things like heart attacks. And when you look at atherosclerotic heart disease, it really comes down to one major factor, and that is damage to the blood vessel wall. That is the inciting event that has to happen for these plaques to start to build up. Now, what causes that damage? That's where we get into some different factors.
That's the question.
Ones,
yeah.
Yep. The big ones are going to be insulin resistance, first, and foremost, probably the most common problem today. Smoking is another big one. Now, we've done a pretty good job at cutting down on the smoking rates. And, that ultimately is what led to some of the improvements we saw around heart disease, throughout the 1980s, 1990s, and, up until about 2000, when that downward trend that we were seeing started to go back up again. Probably high blood pressure is the other most common one we see. But again, high blood pressure acts via insulin resistance. Mm-hmm. So it really comes down to insulin resistance and then other toxins that damage the blood vessels, smoking being the most common, but there are other things like heavy metals, air pollution, things like that can cause that as well. But ultimately, we have to come back to damage to the blood vessel wall, to the lining of the blood vessel, as the root cause of heart disease.
Damage to the blood vessel wall is the root cause of heart disease. And he made the case, and he's absolutely correct, that high levels of insulin is the primary cause of not just high blood pressure, but damage to the blood vessel wall, the blood vessel lining. All right, back to eggs. The amazing thing about eggs, there is no insulin spike or glucose spike when you consume eggs. That's because eggs are primarily fat and protein. And carbohydrates will spike glucose and insulin. Fat and protein, not so much. So it's very insulin friendly. And I'm gonna share a study with you in a minute on what it does to actually lower insulin levels. But before I do, I wanna make the case even more that if you're trying to lower cholesterol, just look at what cholesterol does inside of the body. I'm gonna show you a chart here. It starts with cholesterol, you can see on the screen, and it leads to all of these really important and vital hormones inside of your body. Pregnenolone, progesterone, cortisol, aldosterone, testosterone, estrogen, estradiol. There's a cascade of hormones inside of your body that are dependent on high quality cholesterol levels. Cholesterol levels help your liver produce bile. Cholesterol helps your brain function, which is mostly fat. So essentially this is the case if you are avoiding eggs, if you are lowering your cholesterol levels and taking a statin, lowering your saturated fat intake, you're starving your body and your brain by not giving it the building blocks it needs to thrive. Eggs are Mother Nature's multivitamin. It has a perfect 1-to-1 ratio of mass of fat to protein. Eggs are convenient and easy to make. You can have eggs for any meal or snack throughout the day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, or snacks. Eggs are nutrient rich. I mentioned that it's loaded with healthy cholesterol and healthy saturated fats, but it also has zeaxanthin, lutein, great for eye health. It has healthy omega fats, selenium, riboflavin, phosphorus, all great for healthy bone function and lowering inflammation inside of your body. So I say an egg a day keeps your doctor away. We spoke about the importance of lowering insulin because high levels of insulin cause heart disease. It's a contributor to heart disease. Well, check out this study on eggs as it pertains to insulin resistance. The study headline is Egg Consumption May Improve Factors Associated with Glycemic Control and Insulin Sensitivity in Adults with Pre- and Type 2 Diabetes. Here's what they found. Blood samples were obtained to analyze lipid profile and biomarkers associated with glycemic control at all time points. Regular egg consumption resulted in improvements of fasting blood glucose, which was significantly reduced by 4.4% at the final visit in the egg group. I'll put that study for you in the notes below if you want to check it out. But here's the thing. Not all eggs are created equal, and how you cook the eggs are also important. So we don't want to damage the fats in the cholesterol in the eggs. We don't want to what's called oxidize them. So yes, you want to consume the eggs with the yolk to get those benefits. You also want to make sure they're runny. The runnier, the better. When you overcook eggs, like overly scrambling them, they oxidize and actually could be an unstable rancid fat. But when you do a soft scramble, or instead of a hard-boiled egg, a soft-boiled egg, or even sunny side up, or a poached egg, the runnier the yolk, the better. That means you're going to preserve a lot of those nutrients that I mentioned. And then when you're buying eggs, you don't want to get just regular conventional eggs, or even the words cage-free. We used to think that was what you wanted to go for, but now there is some loopholes with cage-free marketing where they could still be in a cage and then given some time on the field, and then they call them cage-free even though they're going back into the cage. So instead of cage-free, we want organic, pastured, non-GMO eggs. That's what you're looking for when you're going to the grocery store. The brand that I use, which is available at most commercial grocery stores here in the United States, is from Vital Farms. That's what I personally use, but the words you're looking for, organic, pastured, non-GMO, and you'll get all the benefits that come with eating high-quality eggs. If you enjoyed this video and you want to learn more about raising HDL, which is the good cholesterol in your body, and clearing out the arteries, check out this recent video I did on the best foods to raise HDL and clean out your arteries. I'm going to be sharing with you the best foods that will raise HDL in your body and clear those arteries. Before we get to the list of those foods I want you to incorporate, let's start with the foods to remove that actually cause arterial blockages.